Hello, everyone. This is Jim Biringer, NHLRumors.com. Smash that notification bell, like the video, comment below. Here's the latest rumors and rumblings heading into the NHL draft on Friday. First, we saw another trade on Wednesday. It was late on the East Coast, early on the West Coast, if you want to call it that way. JJ Peterka goes from Buffalo to the Utah Mammoth. Earlier in the day, Evander Kane went from Edmonton to Vancouver. But the Buffalo Sabres get Michael Kesselring and Johnston in return, and there were other offers on the table. Apparently, there were multiple first-round picks, better prospects, and better players on the table. Now, it's interesting to see what goes down with Buffalo moving forward. They still have Bo Byram that they're looking to move out. You know, Peterka was a guy that's been out there since the trade deadline. There were teams like the Rangers looking at him. But again, Buffalo settled for that offer because a right shot defenseman came back in the deal that helps them. Josh Jones, a promising player, still a prospect. It's going to take some time to get up there. But again, we don't know what Kevin Adams is doing. We don't know what he's thinking. But we do know that he uses his words, and sometimes it hurts the Buffalo Sabres. So the Sabres are not done this offseason. They still got more things that they want to do and reshape their roster and try to get back into the playoffs, but it's unlikely. As we move towards another big name, Noah Dobson's name is circulating as we head into the NHL draft. Obviously, we know the New York Islanders want to get James Higgins. They want to get the local kid. We know they're going to take Matthew Schaefer with the number 1 overall pick, but they're trying to get back into the top 5 because if they try to get Boston's pick or Philly's pick, or maybe Buffalo's pick at 9, Higgins isn't going to be there. He's going to be a sleeper this draft. A lot of draft experts I talk to is a lot of people are underselling him and over scouting him and nitpicking him because of Misa, because of Frundell, because of what Schaefer has done and the Florida Panther effect. But James Higgins is a good offensive weapon that can help the New York Islanders. That's what they need. And it could attract somebody in free agency. But if they land Matthew Schaefer and James Higgins, it would have to either be the San Jose Sharks pick at 2 or the Utah Mammoth pick at 4. Other teams involved on Noah Dobson, Montreal Canadiens, St. Louis Blues, Columbus Blue Jackets are teams involved. And Noah Dobson, apparently his ask is over $10.5 million or on an 8-year contract. That might be a little expensive for the Montreal Canadiens, who still need to sign Lane Hudson to an extension. And again, you're going to pay 2 defensemen $10 million when they have other needs. And Montreal still needs to draft and develop. And apparently, if they are going to trade with the Islanders and the Canadiens, it would be one of the first-round picks, 16 and 17, David Reidenbacher or Logan Mailloux, and maybe Owen Beck. That would be the package going to New York. Is that something Matthew Darche wants to do? And does he flip that other pick to go up in the draft? Or does he go straight with the Utah Hockey Cup and potentially get the 4th overall pick and potentially Sean Durzi coming back the other way as a potential trade that goes to the Islanders so they can get James Higgins? And that's who they really want to, which I'm surprised they really want him now. And everybody knows they want him and they want to get back up into that top 10 to get him, which potentially begs the question why James Higgins wasn't number 1 all season, because he was for 3/4 of the year. So going to be interesting to see what the Islanders do with Noah Dobson. You know, he changes agents. There were rumblings in February, as we discussed, about, Dobson potentially being on the move. The Islanders weren't quote unquote shopping him, but they were listening on Dobson because of the ask. And now Matthew Darche, their new general manager, is in a tough spot with Dobson as they try to get an extension done. And it's going to go one way or the other. And there are multiple teams involved here. And St. Louis, maybe they send Kyrou the other way if it goes for the Islanders. So, again, a lot of moving parts because St. Louis needs defensemen. And say it's San Jose's pick, right? Frundell's not going to be there either. So that's why it's very strange. They could do it for less because they need a franchise defenseman, which they would love Schaefer to get, but they're not getting him. So if they go Frundell, I mean, it's a really good 1-2 combination that they have there. However, you wonder what Utah's going to do. They want to make a big splash as well after the Peterka trade and sign an extension. So very interesting to see what Utah does on the Dobson front. As we move towards the Toronto Maple Leafs and we look at what they're doing, Mitch Marner, according to Brad Treliving, is going to test the market. We all figured he would. It doesn't sound like he's going to be signing in Toronto. Could be Vegas, could be Carolina, could be LA, Utah potentially, maybe the Islanders take a run at him. Could be multiple teams take a run at him. Columbus is a sleeper on my board just because of what happened with the Johnny Gaudreau situation. RIP to Johnny Gaudreau, just because Columbus wasn't on his radar, and then they made a good offer and he took it. So you almost wonder if Marner, same thing happens with Mitch Marner. Is Dallas, did they figure it out? Because let's be honest, if he goes to Dallas, Jason Robertson's out the door, and they're going to move at $7.5 million out, and he's going to sign an extension with somebody. It's going to be interesting to see what they do there, just because, again, who can pay the most money? Where can he go? Does he want to win? Craig Button has said you can win with a guy like Marner, even though people say you can't. Maybe they run him out of town and realize they should have kept him, and they're going to regret losing him because you can't replace a guy like that. There is no 7-Eleven hockey store where top six forwards are on aisle 6. It doesn't exist. They just don't exist. There's no 7-Eleven hockey store to get those type of players. But again, let's see what Mitch Marner does on another team where he goes. It appears that Vegas is the front runner to get him, but LA needs a scoring winger. If LA can get it done with the money, I think that's a possibility. The Kings also need to re-sign and extend Gavrikov. It looks like they've agreed on the term, but the dollars are off a little bit, according to Dave Pagno to the fourth period, and Dennis Bergestein as well, who are live in LA for the NHL draft. So and Carolina, here's the thing with Carolina. Like, again, I keep hearing reports that, yeah, they're going to throw money at Marner, but does the owner really want to pay up to get Marner? Because Aho makes $9.5 million. Are they going to pay a guy more than Aho? Polsky seemed to want to do it with Rantanen, but was they willing to do it with Getzel? Again, it's a very interesting time just because the Hurricanes are in a crazy situation. The way they play fits their coaching style, but the guys they want to go after don't. And maybe they have to start changing the style of play to be a more faster team than what they are now. So Marner's a player to watch to where he goes on July 1st. Maybe he waits a couple of days to get it done after the holidays and everything, and then he takes his time and signs someplace else. But I don't think it's going to be that long. It could be a couple of days after all the major holidays are done in Canada and the United States, and then he signs, similar to what we saw with Zach Parise and Ryan Suter all those years ago. But the other interesting one is John Tavares, right? And they're inching closer to a new deal. And I think the barometer is the Matt Duchene deal in Dallas at 4.5. But, the Leafs come in a little low, 3. Tavares might be looking for 7. You mean in the middle. It's not going to be 6. Could be 4.5. Could be 5. But with the way the center market is, and it's so thin, the Leafs have to keep him. But they don't want to overspend. And they've already said, hey, you got your money. And if they really want him back, then this is what the player's going to have to take. They can't keep losing on contracts. They've done it for too long. And maybe this is a sign that says they don't need him or they don't want him anymore in that room because too many people are robotic. Same answers all the time, need some emotion out of the players. But they need center, and they need a second line center. But they also have Matthew Nyes that needs a contract extension. Could be a shorter term deal like Austin Matthews. It's going to be interesting to see how the Maple Leafs approach this. But the Matt Duchene deal is the barometer for John Tavares in Toronto to stay. And I think that's what they wanted to do. I think that was the early season prognostications. Tavares wants to stay. The Leafs know he wants to stay. But the fact that it isn't done at this point tells me that, do they really want him to stay? Or are they hardballing him and say, this is what you have to take. And if you don't want to take it, you can go someplace else. Similar situation to what we're seeing in Ottawa. Claude Giroux, very interesting to see that isn't done either. But he's got, apparently, according to reports, he's getting a 1-year deal from the Ottawa Senators, but they're off on money. And it's going to be similar to what the Jamie Benn signed for in Dallas. Not the $1 million base salary. It could be like 2.5. But it's going to be very bonus structured. Ben's getting like $500,000 for 20 games played, $500,000 for 30, $500,000 for 60, and so on and so forth, plus the Stanley Cup win and going to the Western Conference Final. There it is very bonus structured for a player that's over the age of 35. They wanted Ben. They want to keep Ben. This is what they do. It's this low base with high bonus structure. Similar contract to Giroux in Ottawa, but they have other needs and they don't have the cap space either to get things done up at the nation's capital, and they have some other free agents. Most likely Adam Gaudette's probably going to leave despite how good he plays under Travis Green. That's a player that would really hurt the Ottawa Senators if he left. So going to be interesting to see how things unfold. Craig Conroy's basically said that an offer has been put out for Dan Vladar. See if he takes it. They're working on Rasmus Andersson extension in Calgary. More on that at another time, but it appears that his time might be winding down. Multiple suitors for the Flames defenseman as they try to retool this roster and try to get to the playoffs and get sustainable success when they enter their new building. A lot of rumblings that Boston, Minnesota, a lot of teams looking at him, including the Ottawa Senators. And why wouldn't you? Right shot defenseman, maybe the Dallas Stars go after him as well. And we'll talk about Dallas and Jason Robertson another time as well. But a lot of things heating up as we head towards NHL free agency, NHL drafts right around the corner. Trades coming in left and right. A lot of activity. New CBA could be agreed upon. 84 games. We could touch on that at another time. Lower contracts for players. World Cup of Hockey's coming back. But big names to watch. Mitch Marner, Noah Dobson. Saw Peterka go. Does Byram go next? A lot of moving parts as the NHL draft comes up Friday. Jim Biringer, NHLRumors.com. Again, subscribe to the channel, like the video. We'll be back again for another video real soon.